Novelizations of movies can be quite interesting, as sometimes they're not just a straight-up retelling of what you saw in the film, as they'll add quite a few things you never seen originally. And that is the case for the original novelization of Ghostbusters. The novel version of Ghostbusters originally came out in 1985 and was written by Richard Mueller. You might recognize the name Richard Mueller as well from episodes of The Real Ghostbusters, as he wrote 23 episodes of the series, which was a job he was offered by J. Michael Straczynski because he had done the book version of the movie.
Joe Straczynski,
Yeah.
he was supposed to do 65 episodes in 4 months, and he called me up because I'd written the novelization. I wrote the novelization to the movie, which means in an odd way I was the first writer on this series, for the series even.
I'm really glad the novel landed Mueller the job of writing on the cartoon series, as he wrote some pretty great episodes that usually did some good character exploration.
As far as working in animation, there were moments when I was intensely proud of things I created on other shows, but this is the best.
Apparently, the author Joan Vinge was originally slated to write the Ghostbusters novel adaptation, but she ended up working on the Beyond Thunderdome novel instead.
My editor, Jim Frankel, is married to Joan Vinge, a very fine science fiction writer, and he called me up. Joan was supposed to write the novelization to a movie, but she just got Beyond Thunderdome. Would you like to do Ghostbusters?
The copy I have is a newer reprinting that also includes the novelization of Ghostbusters 2. The original release of this adaptation is a little harder to come by these days. The cover of it, kinda interestingly, has the flipped version of the logo used in the UK on it, but it also includes the normal version in the Ghostbusters text. The second run of the book actually flipped the larger logo to the way it is in the movie.
I always loved that symbol, and I think that went to spread that no symbol a lot more than we knew over in this country. That's a very European thing.
Yeah, oh no, definitely.
It's always kind of funny to think that the no logo wasn't really being used over here that much yet back in '84. The novel points it out as being the international sign for prohibition when describing the logo. The no-go symbol is also noted as being Janine's idea. Richard Mueller filled the movie's plot out a bit with some backstory and moments in the characters' heads, which was quite interesting, and at times got quite weird. There are also a lot of deleted scenes and older elements for Ghostbusters that are part of the novelization because Richard Mueller is given an earlier script to work off of, and the original home video release hadn't yet come out. So he had to go off his memory of watching the movie for some lines that were changed or got ad-libbed.
They sent me the script, and none of Peter Venkman's lines were in it. Luckily, I'd seen it 4 times because they didn't give me a copy of it. I had to do it from memory and the script in a month.
So, some lines in the novel are actually ones not heard until the preview cut of the movie got released on the Ultimate Collection. Like one of my favorite lost lines from Peter, mostly because of Bill Murray's delivery.
What have you seen? What do you mean, seen? Looked at with your eyes.
Something Richard Mueller loved doing to add some dimension to a character was writing about their family, which is something that was also carried over to his episodes of The Real Ghostbusters. Richard Mueller wrote the episodes that introduced Peter's father, Winston's father, and Ray's aunt.
Obviously the first mention of Peter Venkman's dad.
I put in the characters' relatives because that's who they are, they're descended from and where they get their attitudes.
It makes them fuller character.
We need to know the backgrounds of these people, so I put all their relatives in the novelization.
And we get scenes with those 3 characters' family in the novel as well. Peter has much more respect for his father in the novel than he did in The Real Ghostbusters, where he had a rather complicated relationship with his father, partly due to him being kind of a con man.
There he is.
I love what he's
that man, if that man is not dressed as a con man, nobody is.
It's kind of the opposite in the book, as Peter takes exception to his father getting called a con man, and where his father was still alive in the animated series, he's not so much anymore in the novel. Peter's family worked at the carnival, where Peter occasionally worked during the summers as a carnival barker. So yelling at people to step right up and all that. When Ghostbusters gets big, one paper rags on him by saying ghosts are a hoax and brings up his carny family, calling his father a carnival con man, which upsets Peter quite a bit. Peter ends up getting revenge on said paper by dumping a ghost in their office, and then when they call Ghostbusters for help, he says, yeah, we could help for a retraction, and they say, we never retract, to which Peter responds, good policy, enjoy your ghost. It's kind of interesting because overall, Peter is kind of a much more insecure character in the novel, largely because we go inside his head and hear how unsure he is about certain things and how he wants his relationship with Dana to really work out. Peter is also slimier in certain parts. There's one bit where certain gadgets Egon has made are being described, and he was hypnotizing hamsters using low-frequency radio waves, and it says Peter found out it worked on some co-eds as well. No, Peter, that's no. This is kind of a sharp contrast to Venkman in the movie. I mean, while he is trying to pick up Jennifer at the beginning, when Dana is possessed by the gatekeeper and thinks Peter is the keymaster, she tells him to take her.
Take me now, sub-creature.
And instead of taking her up on this rather dubious consent, Peter recognizes she's not in her right mind.
I make it a rule never to get involved with possessed people.
I always thought that was pretty good for an 80s movie, as a lot of those movies would have characters act much scummier in a situation like that. And you do get some more of that 80s horniness in the novel when you go inside some characters' heads or get some extra backstory. Another moment like this for Peter is when we get some backstory for Ray. He was going home for a family get-together/dinner, and Peter ends up tagging along. He doesn't really make a great impression on Ray's family, except for his bi sister who he hits on and then hooks up with, and runs off with her in Ray's brother's rental car, leading to Ray quietly sneaking back to New York so he doesn't have to deal with the family blowout. Peter also ends up stranding Ray's sister somewhere after their little fling, so none of Ray's family was too big on Venkman. This actually ends up being why Ray was left the family house after his parents died instead of his brother or sister, as his father wrote in the will, "It's not that I think you're worthier than either of them, it's that Peter Venkman character you brought to the house. I figure as long as you got friends like him, you're gonna need all the help you can get, so I want you to have some property to fall back on." So that kind of makes Peter's line telling Ray everybody gets 3 mortgages these days on that family house a bit more sinister, which is what this backstory directly leads into.
If anybody deserves Nobel recognition, it would be Spengler and me. We're going to be designing all the equipment. Whoa! I introduced you! If it weren't for me, you never would have met! Now that's gotta be worth something!
There's a bit with Winston's mom throwing the paper at him and telling him to get a job before he goes to the firehouse. Winston also is training in electronic countermeasures, so he recognizes that the ghost-busting equipment is some serious stuff as he's applying. There's a rather awkward bit during this where Ray is excited that Winston is black. "You're black!" Ray said delightedly. "Yes, I know." "No, you see that certain forms of vapors, particularly the later types of cylindrical roamers, respond better to black people." Shut up, Ray. This bit really is much better in the movie, where Winston says he's here for the job and they just say, "Great, you're hired."
This is Winston Zedmore. He's here about the job.
Beautiful, you're hired. Ray Stantz, Pete Venkman.
Winston's Christian beliefs are much more of a thing in the novel as well, kind of expanding on that one part where he and Ray are talking about Judgment Day. There are the reoccurring bums in the novelization, Harlan Bojay and Robert Leonard Coombs, who kind of just keep popping up without much useful to add. They are outside the New York Library before the librarian scene, saying that there's dangerous things in books. These are the bums who appear in that one deleted scene being played by Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. You know, the scene that was definitely best left on the cutting room floor. These bums were meant to pop up once in a while in earlier drafts of Ghostbusters as well, but I assume had that still been the intention, they would have been played by different actors as they are described a bit differently in the novel. Either way, we really did not need these characters. I guess their funniest bit is after the Battle of Stay Puft, where they comment, "You have to wonder why anyone would dump a marshmallow that size right in the middle of the street. I wonder if there might not be a very large cup of hot chocolate somewhere in the area." Robert, that's very good. That would definitely explain it. The librarian at the beginning, Alice, has been aged down to 29, which is another older element as earlier scripts described her that way. We also get some backstory on her, like she's kind of down on her luck and one of her recent hookups stole her VCR the next day. Alice had checked out some sex books shortly before seeing the ghost and screamed, "She'll never do it again!" Tonally, it works much better not having these silly moments leading up to the first ghost, so it plays mostly serious until we get our comedic main characters. That's really why the whole movie works as well as it does too. It's mostly a serious world and a serious situation, just you have comedic characters dealing with it. But the comedy doesn't come at the expense of taking the plot seriously. And things like sex books and reoccurring bums would have taken away from the tone. There's one bit where Dana's heading back to her apartment and some rando is horny for no reason, looking at her and thinks about how long it had been since he'd gotten any. It's funny too, with the sexual content kind of turned up, the language has been largely toned down.
I'm studying the effect of negative reinforcement on ESP ability.
I'll tell you what the effect is! It's pissing me off!
I'll tell you the effect! It bugs me.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass!
We came, we saw, we kicked its butt!
You a Parasite Flame?
What an asshole.
What a jerk!
I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
I have seen jazz that would boggle your mind!
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
It was fine, just fine, until this jerk shut down our power. Is this true? Yes, Your Honor. This man is a jerk.
It is PG. I'm fucking telling you, it's PG.
So, with all that, it's kind of funny that a curse word was actually added in after Peck shuts down the containment grid. We get the description, Peter Venkman had nothing to say. He simply turns and knocked Walter Peck on his ass. So, yeah, Peter was a bit more violent to Walter Peck in the novel.
Fascist!
Another added horny moment was when Peter is hitting on Jennifer and they accidentally shock themselves, and it talks about her arching her back and her boobs bouncing up, and it says, "Ah, the wonders of modem science." Pretty sure that's meant to be modern science, but it's typoed to modem science. The modem science mishap, by the way, is only in the newer reprintings of the book. When Peter makes Egon jump at the library, the book he drops on the table is said to be Tobin's spirit guide. Also, a copy of The Shining flies towards Peter as they approach the librarian ghost. There's a few times we get descriptions of things Egon has made over the years, like explosives from chicken shit. Egon also apparently tried to create a death ray? I didn't know Egon had plans to take over the world. Insert Maurice LaMarche Egon and the Brain reference here. This death ray of Egon's apparently didn't do much besides explode soda cans, and one night Peter got drunk and went crazy with it in a Coca-Cola warehouse. Cause, you know, Columbia Pictures was owned by Coca-Cola at the time. The interaction with the librarian ghost is much longer in the novel as the trio watches the ghost slowly form in front of them. Then Ray tries to charge her and runs into a bookshelf, and then the ghost phases out and back in yelling, "Quiet!" Most importantly though, the Ghostbusters drop a piece of equipment while running away. The bums find it and plan to sell it for wine.
Get her!
That was your whole plan. Get her. It was scientific.
An interesting change in the novel is Peter's way more upset at Ray after the library incident, yelling at him how they almost died.
You've earned it.
Also, instead of giving Egon a crunch bar, it's a Baby Ruth in the novel, which gets mentioned several times. "Baby Ruth," Spangler said reverently, ripping off the paper and cramming it into his face. Golf. Spangler, confused by all the noise, had slipped away and was hanging back at the edge eating a Baby Ruth he had shagged off the hotel newsstand. Let Venkman handle the reporters. Spangler appeared out of the storeroom. "Tough job. Want to share my Baby Ruth?" "Ah, thanks, Egon." I'm not sure about why the change to Baby Ruth, if that was the bar originally written for the scene, or maybe Richard Mueller just liked Baby Ruth more than Crunch. He might have also just been asked to promote Baby Ruth instead of Crunch.
Hey, does this pole still work?
Stance, you dingbat, this had better work.
Say, what are you gonna call your new business?
Ghostbusters.
Oh, well, this place is perfect for it.
The Ghostbusters commercial is described as being much longer than what appeared in the movie, and it's kind of like a combo of the commercial from Ghostbusters 2 and 1. Though, instead of it being Janine and Lewis, it's some actors playing a family with children. Also, Janine does show up in the ad, but is apparently super cheery, which just seems kind of wrong. Though, maybe this is supposed to be some actor playing their receptionist? It's not clear. The family actors also sing a jingle at the end of the commercial.
If you have a ghost but you don't want to play host, you can't sleep at all, so who do you call? Ghostbusters! Ghostbusters!
We're ready to believe you.
The phone number given has also been changed to 1212 no ghost instead of the 555 number given in the film. The novel has the worst earlier version of Peter at Dana's apartment that we've seen in the Dana audition tapes, where it doesn't feel like she's in control of the situation like it does in the final with Sigourney Weaver, and she talks about screaming to get rid of him.
I think I should spend the night.
Okay, this is it. Get out.
On a purely scientific basis.
Will you leave? I'll scream.
Don't scream, okay?
I think I should spend the night here.
That's it. Get out.
On a purely scientific basis.
Out.
I want to help you.
I'll scream.
Don't scream.
There's a deleted scene with part of this interaction, but again, the way it's played, Dana seems like she's about ready to break Peter in half.
What I'd like to do is spend the night here.
Get out.
The unhappy honeymooners at the Sedgwick Hotel scene is in the novel, but it goes on longer than the deleted scene of it with the two bickering more. The deleted scene version ends with Slimer not properly shown, but in the novel, he is revealed at this point. He's also described as being more yellow than he is in the movie, with Ray calling him Potato Face. I guess kind of playing into the theme that Egon likes to snack, he and Ray come up with an egg roll-based measurement for psychic energy called ERM, egg roll mass. Now, one absolutely super important change is when they get the call to go to the Sedgwick, Ray crotches himself on the pole. "Will you get a move on here, Egon?" Venkman cried from the passenger side. "You're driving." "What's wrong with Ray? He dented his bumper. Let's go." The Ghostbusters are mentioned as still having their flip-down visors, which you can see on earlier storyboards. Particularly ones that still envisioned Eddie Murphy as Winston and had him as being a part of the Slimer capture at the hotel. Hopefully the script given to Mueller wasn't quite that old, or he would have had to have done a lot of memory-based editing. The visors were possibly called trinocular visors, though it's possible this was an earlier name for ecto goggles, not quite sure on that. Being around the proton packs is also apparently kinda dangerous too, unless you were also wearing one.
Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
"Ray, you okay?" Stantz shook his head. "Egon, the fillings in my mouth are beginning to heat up!" "That'll stop when you cut in your own accelerator." Venkman's eyes were starting to hurt. "Here goes nothing," he thought, and kicked in his own unit. Immediately, the symptoms subsided as he was surrounded by the proton generators field. Again, some lines only finally heard in the rough cut released on the Ultimate Collection in 2022 are here.
"Don't move. It won't hurt you."
How do you know, Doctor?
The vapor had begun to undulate from side to side, its attention still fixed on Venkman.
"I don't know, I'm just guessing."
Say again. Venkman!
Again, Venkman has a much more upset reaction to something upon getting slimed. "It's slimed me! The little mother slimed me! You alright?" Venkman spat again, his face screwed into an expression of extreme disgust. Stantz had never seen him look so angry. "I'm gonna get that little grub if it's the last thing I do! Nobody slimes Dr. Peter Venkman! Nobody!" Peter really hates what he refers to as ecto-snot, at one point thinking, "If that's what being dead is like, I ain't going." After the capture of Slimer and Peter's talking to the reporters, Egon nearly gets mugged by this weird Mr. Dave character.
"They call me Mr. Dave, man. You ain't Ghostbuster. What's your name?"
Egon pointed to his name, embroidered large on his chest, unaware that part of it had been obscured by flying ectoplasm.
Okay, Spangly, let me see that gun, man.
They're not guns, they're charged particle throwers.
Yeah, Mr. Dave whispered. I know, I just wanna see 'em.
I couldn't do that, you might hurt someone. But for some reason, a discussion about how a proton stream would affect Superman gets Egon out of this situation.
Wait, let me ask you something. If you shot like Superman with one of those guns, would he feel it or what?
Spangler considered. On Earth, no. But on Krypton, we would slice him up like Oscar Mayer bologna.
Wow, hey, thanks, Spangly. You okay?
This Mr. Dave character can only currently be seen in a very incomplete deleted scene of possessed Louis Tully running into some muggers in a tunnel.
I'm Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer. Do you bar my way? Are you crazy, man?
The weird, semi-sentient Ecto-1 deleted scene happens in the novel, with the officer stating after, "Look, Central, I tried to ticket it. It's got some kind of detection system, radar, and a microwave and stuff. It zapped the ticket, disintegrated, burned up, nothing but black ashes left. I ain't going near it. You want them ticketed? You do it." The interview Ray has with Joe Franklin during the montage is longer, with some older ghost movies being mentioned, including Spook Chasers, so that really went full circle with the real Ghostbusters bootlegs. Winston Zedmore was absolutely fascinated as he stood peering through the view slit. "It's a damned prison," he thought. "A prison for ghosts." It was depressing, but at the same time, Winston couldn't think of any other solution to letting them run loose. That's really quite the depressing take on the containment unit that I don't think we really need. It at least seemed like it was supposed to be a somewhat enjoyable ghost habitat inside the containment unit whenever we saw inside it in real Ghostbusters. One particularly amusing part that would only really work in a novel was getting to hear the thoughts of Vince Clortho before it possesses Louis Tully. "It is him," the Guardian thought, but before it could act, Louis tossed the coats over it and left, slamming the door behind him. "It is nearsighted," decided the Guardian, shaking off the coats. "It is ugly too, but I have my duty." It let loose a terrible roar.
Okay, who brought the dog?
A notable change in the story is that Egon and Janine are definitively stated as being in a relationship by later on in the story, which was something you could only slightly infer was maybe starting in the movie, with some of the moments between the two getting cut, like where Janine gives Egon her lucky coin.
I want you to take this. It's my lucky coin.
I shouldn't take it. We might not be coming back.
Take it anyway. I got another one at home.
Though that deleted scene did appear after the credits of Ghostbusters Afterlife, of course.
Janine, didn't your mama ever tell you not to get involved with no Ghostbuster? Now go on home.
The Egon-Janine relationship was of course expanded in the pre-Q5 episodes of Real Ghostbusters, with Richard Mueller running the episode Roller Ghoster that showed Egon and Janine out on a date. There are quite a few times we hear Egon's thoughts about not knowing how exactly to act around a woman, and he apparently asked Venkman for advice on this matter. Egon might be socially awkward, but he is supposed to be smart, so I don't think he'd ask for advice on women from Peter. I kinda liked how the novel stayed with Egon and Janine pairing up and Peter chasing after Dana, that Ray and Winston became quite close friends. Except for when Ray is getting a ghost BJ.
Hey, Stan, you alright in there?
Later, man.
So, yeah, the Fort Det mirroring scene takes place in the novel, where of course Ray's sexy time with the ghost he encounters here was turned into a dream during the montage sequence. Maybe some of these spirits are friendly, beneficial, fantastic. He closed his eyes. I don't think we're gonna find this one, he thought. Oh, stupid, horny Ray. An interesting description variation about the firehouse was it having a garish neon sign. I don't know if that's supposed to be in addition to the regular one they had or what.
The Keymaster, he's here with me now.
Oh, wonderful. We have to get these two together.
I think that would be extraordinarily dangerous.
Peter's actually a little smarter about this in the novel, saying, I was just thinking it probably wouldn't be a good idea for them to get together at this point. I agree. After the containment grid explosion, Egon has to keep trying to tell firemen they can't put that out with water, which is partly in the rough cut.
Any trailers or styrene esters? No. Any polychloric?
Can we put water on it?
No water. There was another guy here. You have to find this man and bring him back here.
They're using drugs.
Your mother!
Hey, hold it! Keep your hands up!
Egon has a slightly angrier response in the novel, which is kind of hard to imagine coming out of him. If you don't shut up, I'm gonna rip out your septum! In the movie, Slimer shows back up in a hot dog cart, which he does in the novel as well, but the vendor is out in front of the Cedric Hotel. And the manager, who is named J.M. Shupp by the way, decides to go get a hot dog right as this happens for a little wah-wah moment. Now, there's an extremely awkward scene where people in the theater have ghosts of old entertainers show up in front of them, which includes a stupid old minstrel, which I get is supposed to be depicting old dead shit, but we definitely can do without that. 40 years of darkness, Stance chimed in. Earthquakes, mass hysteria, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together in sin. That sequence just doesn't sound correct without the mass hysteria coming after cats and dogs living together.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Instead of the crowd cheering the Ghostbusters on as they head over to the Shandor to battle Gozer, they are completely crazed and almost flip Ecto on over. I guess that more accurately depicts New Yorkers' attitude towards Ghostbusters as they were filming those scenes and had the road shut down. In this version, it's actually the earthquake that gets the crowd out of the way so that the Ghostbusters can get inside the apartment complex.
You're gonna wish you never came to this city, pal. Yeah. You should have stayed in Jersey, Buster. Y'all want to play rough? Yeah. Let's get him. Come on. Go.
Oddly, the Terror Dogs salute Gozer as it appears on the roof, which sounds like it could have been creepy or kinda cheesy, depending on the execution. Gozer is described slightly differently, though not as different as the original idea of it appearing as a kindly-looking man. It had the form of a thin, very strange young girl, apparently swathed in a clinging mist from the ankle to the neck. The hair swept up and back, not precisely cut short, but seeming to disappear as if it linked the being to its home dimension, and its eyes of the deepest blood red and liquid, like two beating hearts swimming in their own juices. Happy Halloween, Venkman thought.
Are you a god?
No.
Then...
So, it's apparently the proton packs absorbing some of Gozer's blast that keeps the four from being blown right off the roof, but they almost overload from all the energy. Things get more dire too after Gozer vanishes and causes another earthquake, and the Ghostbusters think they are about to die. Egon checked his meters. They are all dead. Overloaded. He heard Zedmore scream, "Winston, you okay?" "I am not okay! The world is ending and I'm not ready to go! Just hang on!"
The Traveler has come! Choose and berries!
Juice and berries?
When discussing what the form of the Destructor could be, instead of using J. Edgar Hoover as an example, it's Roberto Clemente, which is another element from earlier scripts. Also, in all script drafts but the final, Stay Puft was apparently accidentally thought of by Winston instead of Ray.
It can't be.
What did you do, Ray? Oh, shit.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
So, this must have been a bit Richard Mueller remembered well from the movie, as he keeps it as Ray's mistake, which I think makes the most sense character-wise. After the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man appears, Peck ridiculously tries to get an officer to go up onto the roof of the Shandor and arrest the Ghostbusters.
Yo! Come here! Are the Ghostbusters up there?
Yeah,
Are they up there?
You're on the roof! Arrest them! You arrest them! I'm not gonna get out of here!
Instead of just crossing the streams at the temple doors of Gozer, Egon says to shoot the Terror Dogs. "No!" Spangler cried. He pointed to the two Terror Dogs waiting by the great temple doors. "Them! Shoot them!" "No! You'll kill Dana!" "And," Spangler added, "cross the streams." "You said that crossing the streams would be bad." "Yeah," Stance said, "it'll kill us." Life is just a state of mind, Spangler replied calmly. But it's my favorite state. Time stopped, the temple doors melted, the interdimensional gate closed, and Gozer, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, its link to its own time gone, was consumed in a roaring firestorm.
Dana, it's you!
Louis.
Did you and I... did we...
No, Louis. No.
I love you so!
The last notable change is, instead of Winston having that line, it's Peter who says that after being happy that he and Dana have gotten together. So, yeah, quite a few interesting changes and expansions to the Ghostbusters story in this novel, and as it quotes from John Burroughs right at the beginning, how much there is in books that one does not want to know. Wait, what? So, here are my lovely paper notes I took on this novel as I read it during the multi-day blackout after Hurricane Fiona.